Okay, I got the van yesterday. It's Vauxhall Vivaro, say that, Vivaro 1.6. Bought it up in North Wales and I drove it back to South Wales. That's a 3.5 hour trip without stopping. The roads are beautiful but very slow. So the van's, it's been used. It's only done 50,000. It's got a full service history, but it's been kitted out with racking and it's been used, and you can see bits of paint chips and the odd slight dent in the back door, which I'll sort out and cover up any chips on the paint. So my first day on this van now is to strip the inside. I've taken off the plywood panels off the back door. I was hoping I could reuse them, to be honest, they're too small. They fit in the recess rather than go around the outside, so I don't think there's much scope for reusing them. I've also stripped up the port side of the van, the left hand side here. That was covered in ply. The more difficult task is to get this big length of racking out, and it's probably going to be quite heavy. I'll probably have to disassemble it because it's quite thick ply. I don't think I'll be able to move that on my own, and it's quite long. So that's it for the time being. So in a couple of hours, maybe less than that, I'm hoping to have that out. Then I'm going to take out the bulkhead, which, looking at other YouTube videos, mainly Love Sundays, thanks very much Sean, that's got about 22 screws and torques and nuts in to take that thing out, but it intrudes into the van. If you look at it from the side, it curves backwards to cope with the seats. Now we're pushed for space anyway, so I'm going to take it out. The other nice thing about taking it out, you've also got another way of getting out in an emergency if you need to, getting into the cab. It would have been nice in some ways to keep it as well, because if it's insulated and the sun's out, it keeps the cab, which will become a furnace in the sun, from warming up the living areas too much when it's insulated. Anyway, I'm drivelling on now and I'll catch you a bit later. Hi folks, it's another day. Just had the van over a week. It's now Tuesday, so about a week and a half, so we've stripped it. This will show you the insulation. First thing you do is put the soundproofing on. These dense self-adhesive pads which stop the panels sounding like a drum. They deadens the sound, definitely. Next stage then is this silver backed self-adhesive foam. It's 10 millimeters, 1 centimeter, and that sticks on the metal. So I'm just finishing that off now. I actually ran out, so that's going to be going on up here. The next stage then is to put on this fluffy fleece insulation, which is actually made from recycled bottles. And then the other thing we've done is carpet the panels, so fit them on the back door. They didn't look very good, not so much the panels, but the van is white and the contrast was not particularly pleasant. And to be honest, I bottled out of putting carpet on the door. I thought it would be, I'd have a nervous breakdown, might be beyond my competence skills. So I'm painting the doors grey, which camouflages in with the grey matting. I've got that plywood on the wall. This is all plywood from the van when it was a builder's van. So the shape isn't perfect. There's some little cutout notches where the tie-down points used to go, but to be honest, it's very, very minor. This one here is going to go on, but so I've got to run some cables in first, and I've got some grommets on order. So the jobs are stacking up. That's the roll of the fleece. I'm just about to start on the ceiling now, and then I'm going to cut around the air vent. So that's where we are for the moment. I've started to terminate the wires for the lights. If you haven't used them, these little things are called Wago connectors, W-A-G-O. They're excellent. So basically, all the positives will go in this one, the red wire, and all the negatives will go one with the black wire. They're 2 connections. These are triples, as you can see. So the last feed coming off these will go to the LED lights themselves. Then I've got some more cable on order because I want to run a cable from the driver's side of the van, the right hand side, over to the left hand side where the battery will be for a USB port. And that's where we are. So all in all, I'm quite pleased with the progress. And after I finish the insulation, put the wall panels on, the wiring, we're going to be starting on the floor. Again, I've reclaimed 2 out of the 3 plywood flooring panels that came with the van. They were dirty, so we've painted them to keep the dust off. And the third one is a brand new one, and I used the old one which was starting to delaminate as a template. So again, before they go down, this floor will have to be insulated with a self-adhesive foam pad, which I've got lots of them stuck in the garage waiting to go down. Well, after a day off yesterday, I've got back on it today, and all the carpeting is done and the wheel arches. They were very difficult to do, I thought, but the flat panels weren't too bad. I've also installed a USB socket there on the passenger side, on the left hand side, and you can see the cables down there, which I've labelled because they're all the same cable, which is probably a mistake. Next job will be the floor. I'm going to dry fit the plywood for tomorrow to see if it copes with the carpet. We'll have to trim it, and if it does, then I'll be sticking down the self-adhesive the self-adhesive insulation, and then put the plywood on top of that and fix it to the floor. That's a major step forward. When I've done the floor, then the next step then will be to do the ceiling. And I've just found a big chunk of 9mm ply in the shed that I actually took out of the van. That was part of the work shelves, the storage units, when we bought the van. They'll just be used to basically go on the beams going across the van. They won't be on display because it's a bit grubby. So overall, I'm quite pleased with that. It's not too shabby at all. Hello again. Well, it's been pretty much a month to the day since I bought this van. I bought it on the 30th of March, and it's now the 1st of May 2025, so literally just over a month. I've worked on it most days, and I'm retired, so it probably takes somebody 2 or 3 times longer if you were still working. I've probably done about 5 hours a day on average, something like that. Anyway, starting from sort of scratch, when I decided to get a camper, first thing I did was look at what vehicle to buy. And I wasn't that fussy, really. I didn't want the last type of make of Ford Transit because they've got a very bad reputation for corrosion. Every van that you read about has got some problem, I came to the conclusion. And then when you look on the Auto Trader, you see them doing 150, 200,000 miles. So I thought, well, get a grip here. It's just luck of the draw. So I decided on the Vivaro class, so that could be either the Renault or the Nissan equivalent as well. But this one came up in North Wales, went up for the drive, and it's not bad. It's got full service history, and it's only done 50,000 miles, which is pretty rare for a van. So when I looked at the layout, the trouble is with a small van, a short wheelbase, whatever you do is going to be a compromise. Now, a lot of people put a galley or kitchen down one of the sides. Fine, but to do that, then if you want a double bed, you're not going to have a decent double bed. It's going to be a minimal size. Now, we wanted to have a good night's sleep, so I made the beds at least 60 centimetres wide, 160, 162 to be exactly. And another reason for having 2 single beds is that sadly, we're both at an age where we have to get up in the night for the pension and pee. So we wanted access to the loo to have a pee at night. And a lot of layouts that you see are great if you're in your 20s and 30s when you can sleep through the night. When you're in your 60s, it's a different story, believe me. So we wanted access to a loo. So if I just show you that we've got space, well, I'll turn the camera around down there for the loo. And it also fits between the berths as well. And it's stored under the seats for the moment. So that was quite important. But the compromise for having access to the loo was a small kitchen. So what I've done for the kitchen, and it's not finished yet, I've made a kitchen pod. Let me show you that. Basically, it's a box, and I've installed the sink, and I've got a tap. You can see the hole there. The tap actually runs off a USB charge, and on one charge it'll pump 100 litres. So I've got jerry cans on order, which will fit in the kitchen module itself. They should be arriving this afternoon. So one jerry can will be for clean drinking water and the other one will be for grey water. And I'm also going to keep a spare jerry can under one of the seats full of fresh water as well. Now, in terms of what we've done, just to recap, stripped and cleaned the van, took the bulkhead out. Then I soundproofed it with the Dodo Mat soundproofing pads. Then I insulated it with 10mm closed cell foam. And on top of the closed cell foam, I put a fleece, which is made from recycled pop bottles. Then I carpeted the plywood and I managed to reclaim nearly all the plywood from the van, which was really good. I had to get a new sheet for the floor. One of the three I couldn't save. It was delaminating, but I used the original plywood as a template, so it wasn't too bad to fit. I've taken away the step. There's usually a step in the side of a Vivaro, if you look down there. But I've actually made that flat with the plywood and braced it underneath so you can step on that. It gives a couple more inches of room. And you really are stuck for space in a small van. Every inch counts. I made the beds then. The joints I use for the beds, I use pocket hole screws, which I think are brilliant. You can see the drilling here. And pocket hole screws basically enable somebody like me who isn't a carpenter to make strong joints in wood without having to do complicated joints. And I use the Kreg, that's K-R-E-G, pocket hole jig. I think it's an American invention. In my opinion, the Americans are way ahead of us when it comes to carpentry. They've got far more timber than us and beautiful trees, whereas we usually get second grade pine. But they're very, very innovative when it comes to woodworking, I find. So we also put down the floor, and the floor it's Altro flooring. To be honest, it's a bastard to lay. It really is. It's the sort of stuff they use in schools and hospitals. It's incredibly thick and hard to work with. The only way you can bend it really is to use a hairdryer to make it pliable. So the floor's gone down. I mean, it looks great now it's down. It's very hard wearing, easy to clean because we've got a little dog who sheds hair. And now the van's sort of coming together. So I just put on some accessories. On the back door and on the walls, I put these nets, which you can get off eBay. In terms of wiring, I've kept the wiring in this van really simple. I've just got 3 LED lights in the ceiling. And I've got 2 USBs, one on the wall and one down on the end of one of the beds here. And they will run off the power unit when it turns up, which hopefully will be this week. And I've also wired it for 240 volt mains, which I can show you that. There's the 3-pin socket on the end of the bed. That goes through a consumer unit. Let's see if we can show you that. The consumer unit's down there. And that then goes to a waterproof socket on the outside of the van. One has to cut a hole for that, which is a bit of a scary moment. So I took a lot of time. They say measured twice, cut once. I think I measured 4 times before I cut. You can get external sockets which go underneath the van, but by reputation, they're not very waterproof and they can cause problems. Also, it'd be a pain in the backside to plug them in. You'd have to lie on the floor with this van to plug in your electric hookup. Whereas on the side of the van there, it's very easy. The socket's also white, so it blends in with the van. And then this morning, the blackout blinds arrived, or blackout curtains. I'm not sure they're actually blackout. They're nice enough curtains, but I'll wait and see when the light's on if I can see light through. I think the light will come through them, which will annoy me a bit because I just spent something like £40 on them. Not the end of the world. I'm going to live with them for the time being. And they went up easily in 20 minutes. It was all installed. The other thing that I'll show you, again, talking about compromise, I saw one gentleman on YouTube. He made his beds very, very short, but you could lengthen them. Normally you see people who make the beds where they widen, where you pull out with slats. He did the same thing, turned it through 90 degrees to make them longer. The advantage of that is that you've got more room for a galley, but you've got less room for storage. So I went for these. It's not the end of the world. If I ever wanted to change them in the future, it would be an easy enough job, a couple of days so I could have it changed. So this bed is slightly shorter, so I can sit on the end of the bed and still get near the sink. And I've also then built some brackets, one either side like that, and this flips over to make it a full 6-foot bed. And yesterday I took the drive down to my local friendly upholsterer, who's just a couple of 100 metres away from me, and he's knocking up some mattresses for us. I say knocking them up, he'll do a good job in the next few weeks. In terms of budget, I set myself a budget of £2,000. I thought that would be it. I've gone slightly over. I've gone to 2,400. I'm not that disappointed with that. I still think that's a pretty good price. Where did I compromise? Well, really, I suppose I could have spent 3 times as much on plywood and had one of these decorative faced plies. I think they call it phenolic plywood, but they're about 3 times the price of normal ply from your local builder's merchant or B&Q. I did go to B&Q to buy most of the ply for the simple reason, when I had my measurements, they've got one of those fantastic saw stations and they can cut your wood at a perfect 90 degrees to the millimetre in seconds. And they give you 5 cuts for free. So all the timber they cut for me, to be honest, I didn't have more than 5 cuts at any one go, so that didn't cost me anything. So that's a top tip if you live in the UK, and I'm sure you've got the same if you're watching stateside as well. Your local friendly... Oh, who is it in the States? I can't remember who your big dealer is in there. In the UK, it's B&Q, but you'll have an equivalent. And if they've got a saw station, take advantage of it. Next thing I'm going to be doing now is I've ordered 1 roll of that you've got like a Fablon, a sticky back plastic in effect, or a wrap, which I'm going to trial on some of the plywood, and it's a carbon fibre pattern. And I want to see what it comes out like before I go and order 3 or 4 more rolls to finish the job. If it looks crap, then we'll go for something else. But I think carbon fibre and the grey will look good together. I'll leave the wood natural, it's a wood colour, and it'll just be offset then by the plywood panels will be hopefully carbon fibre. Expecting a roll of the carbon fibre wrap to turn up either today or tomorrow. So that's where we are for the moment, folks. When that's done, I'll film it again, show you the final result. Catch you soon. Bye-bye. Well, I'm back again. I think I last filmed this about a week ago. The van is now complete. I'll just show you exactly what we've got. These are the cushions that turned up from our local upholsterer. There were 3 made altogether. There's the 2 big ones and a small one at the back of the van over there when the bed extends. That came to a price of £450, which is quite expensive, but they're professional, they look good. The kitchen module, which last time you saw it, was just a plywood box. That's the tap, which runs on a USB. There's the sink installed. I've also got this table, and you can see the finish, the carbon fibre pattern, which is on here, and it's also on all the panels. They're probably coming out black actually. No, you can just about see it there. On the panels which cover the bed, so it looks a lot more professional. This table comes off, and inside, let's take it off so I can show you inside the kitchen unit. If you have a look inside, we've got a couple of jerry cans, gas cartridges, cooker, a little waste paper bin. It will do for what we want, you know. We're not going away being Michelin-starred chefs. We can probably live on the single cooker, but I've also got a backpacking cooker in there as well if we do need a second burner. What else have we done all together? I put a couple of little hooks up, the little fairy lights. These baskets to put nods and sods in, which are very useful at night when you're going for a torch or whatever. Let's have a look underneath here. Underneath this particular locker is the power unit and the toilet, which comes out at night. This power unit is by bloke or bloke, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. That seems to be working a treat. I've been trialling it in the house, and it powers all sorts of things. It's got a maximum draw, I think, of 1800 watts. So my wife, last time we went away, actually plugged a hairdryer in, and okay, it would flatten it if you were away for weeks and weeks, but it's for a few days away. You can use things like hairdryers on it, and it's without having an electric hookup on the site. It'll run for weeks and weeks and weeks if you just use it on the LEDs on the ceilings. So in terms of costs, I've probably gone now to about 2,500, which again, I'm really pleased with that. I set myself a budget of 2,000, but I think the van, you know, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, I think it looks quite professional. I did some carpentry on here, boxed this rear panel in because there was cable on the outside. So that was a bit of a test of my carpentry skills to get that all lined up. But overall, I've put some little gadgets in, temperature gauge. Overall, I'm really, really pleased with it. We took it away last week before the mattresses arrived, and we just used sort of blow-up air beds, cheap air beds from the camping store. And we had such a great time away. We're off again tomorrow. And at the moment, the UK is having a bit of a heat wave. We haven't had rain for months. So we've had lots of sunshine, so we're off down to the beach again tomorrow. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up, and I shall see you next time. Bye-bye.